So in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
And the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
And it's lovely to be with you this evening. It's been a long time since I was here, and it's great to join you for this evening's celebration.
Good evening to the priest, our seminarians, brothers and sisters. I want to welcome you. Those who don't know me, I'm Jennifer, or Jenny Boer. I want you to look at your neighbor or the person sitting next to you and say to that person, I'm blessed to be here tonight. I want to say thank you to Father David for being here tonight, and all over to Father. Thank you, Father.
Well, I'm certainly not new to this pulpit. I've delivered quite a number of homilies over the years here. If you look at the brochure that was given out, I don't know if you've all got this piece of paper, but it says they're celebrating St. Anthony of Padua, patron of the poor. And I think that tonight's topic about St. Anthony and how he was an inspiration to the poor, he is the patron of the poor. Sometimes we tend to not realize that. There are many other organizations which also do wonderful work. But in the church, the overall patron is St. Anthony of Padua. St. Anthony had a varied career. He was first an Augustinian monk and then only joined the Franciscans later. First of all, he wanted to be a missionary in Morocco, and illness forced him to go to Italy. And when he was in Italy, he developed a totally different ministry than he was expecting. He was expecting to preach in Morocco, and he found himself working with a very different people. But just to look at the issue of poverty. Poverty is widespread. They actually say that 37% of the world's population lives in some form of poverty. And the effects of poverty are quite bad. Death rates, shorter lifespans, and also illness are some of the results of poverty. There's poverty of money caused by a lack of employment opportunities, poverty of access to housing, healthcare, and education, and also the poverty of power, where decision-making opportunities are denied to the poorest. There's a sense of powerlessness, and this can be a cause for drugs and gangsterism as well. And it's a pity, because these are nothing new. These are the very issues that St. Anthony of Padua had to grapple with. St. Anthony, as I said, was first an Augustinian, but he was inspired when he met a group of Franciscans who had come from Morocco, where they had been preaching and teaching, to join them. The Franciscans are one of the biggest religious orders in the world. And to understand Anthony, to understand his focus on poverty, to understand his preaching, we need to look a little bit at Franciscan spirituality. And just very briefly, in absolute summary, the Franciscans believe that they go to God through Christ. Everything is Christocentric with the Franciscan spirituality. It's a very Christocentric theology with Christ at the center, the humanity of Jesus, the Gospels. And this would have been the kind of spirituality that St. Anthony would have had, the humanity of Jesus. When he looked at people, he looked at the humanity of them and Jesus. The Gospels, these were what inspired his actions. Social justice, of course, issues very important: mercy, compassion, humility, generosity, peace, the preferential option for the poor. So St. Anthony was steeped in these themes. This kind of thinking was the man. We've got his statue there. If you just have a look at it, this was the man. He was a man who was trained. He's wearing the traditional Franciscan brown habit. And he was a man who looked for the humanity of Jesus in the world. Christ in the Gospels. The question he would have asked brought him close to the outcasts, the marginal, the poor, those who were victims of injustice, needy, and those who were ill. So that's the kind of thinking that St. Anthony had when he was preparing to preach and preparing to inspire. He was a great preacher, and he was, after his mission in Morocco, he was expecting to go home to Portugal. You know, he was Portuguese from Lisbon, and he was expecting to go back, but there was a big storm and the boat was knocked off shore, and he ended up in Italy. Anyway, he went to the northern part of Italy near Bologna, and there's a couple of towns there. One was Forlì, and it was there that he got renowned as a great preacher. And people didn't know that he was a great preacher. It was just by chance when he stood up. There was nobody else to preach, and he preached. And they could see this was a learned man. This was a man who could inspire. This was a man who could combine his knowledge with the human situation. St. Anthony, of course, is well known not just for his work on preaching and the poor, but also from the poverty of having lost something. I'm sure we've all lost something, and St. Anthony, you might have heard on the other nights, is the great inspiration for asking his intercession when we lose something. It's this St. Anthony of Padua. Apparently, he lost a book of Psalms that were very important to him. There were some important notes that he had written in there. And it was actually taken by one of the novices who had left the order. And St. Anthony prayed, and the book was returned. And this brings us other aspects of this most remarkable man. And the reason that we celebrate his feast on the 13th of June is that that was the day in which he died. In the church, we always tend to have the date closest to, either on or closest to when the saint died. On your brochure for this evening's program, you'll see there it says, The Legend of St. Anthony's Bread. And that was yet another example of where people have sought his intercession and received blessings. You can read it there on the front page. But basically, a mother asked St. Anthony to intercede for the life of her child, and she promises to make a donation of the weight of the child in grain. And when it was given to the poor. So the child was miraculously restored, and the woman was true to her word, and this tradition of giving alms to the poor in St. Anthony's name was begun. Now, as members of the parish of St. Anthony, even if you are members of different organizations, doesn't matter which particular organization, there's in parishes you get Kolping, you get SVP, you get care groups, you get a number of different organizations. But that's fine. You can still, as members of St. Anthony's parish, invoke his intercession and invoke his inspiration for the work in which you do. He's a powerful intercessor for the poor, and that's why he became the patron saint of the poor. When he preached, some of the people that he preached to were wealthy, and he managed to convince them to take concern of those less fortunate. He preached to those who could help, so that those who couldn't help were able to receive what they needed. So his sermons exhorted the rich to give practical help, and in that way became a friend of the poor. He always had an eye out in typical Franciscan way for those who were struggling in their lives. St. Anthony's time, the poor were on the streets mingling with the rich. The economy of the time was a mixed economy. money was coming in and the land-based feudal system was still very evident. So people would sometimes come into the towns who had lived on the land, and they couldn't find a way to make a living. And St. Anthony, along with the founder of the Franciscans, St. Francis of Assisi, had this preferential option for the poor. In other words, they looked for the poor and looked for ways in which they could be helped. Sometimes people would ignore the poor. It's not that they didn't want to help them, they just weren't interested in taking the time. To combat this, Anthony preached repeatedly on the benefits of almsgiving. And St. Francis of Assisi also commended St. Anthony for this. Anthony called for greater generosity, greater compassion, and a greater caring attitude. And it was for these reasons and the inspiration that he got through his great preaching that people began to realize, well, maybe we do have to do something. Maybe we have to do something on a bigger scale. And sometimes we think, well, the poor are there. What is my responsibility? At that time, people also sometimes thought like that. But Anthony's words, when he preached on the gospel, especially where Jesus mentions the poor, like, for instance, the rich man and Lazarus as an example, and there are several other places, he used the gospel to illustrate Jesus' concern for those who are less fortunate. Of course, St. Anthony cared for rich and poor alike, but he had that preferential option for those who are less fortunate. Now, if you look across at the statue there of St. Anthony, as I said, he's carrying the little baby Jesus. And this was a very interesting situation. He was staying at a hermitage, and he was spending time in prayer, and Jesus appeared to him as a child, and you can see that there. He appeared to him. The room was filled with light and laughter as St. Anthony held the Christ child in his arms. And as the story is told, the owner of the hermitage, upon seeing the light, came to investigate, only to behold St. Anthony and the Christ child. It usually also has some lilies, but I can't see them. They're over here tonight. But usually sometimes the statue has lilies. And lilies are a symbol of purity, which shows the absolute purity of intention and motives of St. Anthony. St. Anthony of Padua is one of the most revered and popular saints in the church. Nearly every diocese, I think, has a St. Anthony's Catholic church. And that brings us to the celebration of this particular church, St. Anthony's in Kraaifotein. Now, I can remember in April 2006, I was ordained as a deacon by Archbishop Lawrence Henry. During that evening, I was sent here to this parish as a deacon with Father Noel. I don't know how many people can remember back to 2006. But here I came here. And then Father Noel went away for a little while, and I was here by myself as a brand new deacon, having to do some communion services. And that was quite a nerve-wracking experience for someone who was just ordained a few days ago. And I also had to do a few baptisms and things. So I've got memories here. I come here this evening not only as a guest preacher, but as someone who's got a memory right here. When I was ordained as a priest on the 16th of December 2006, some parishioners, some of you might be here, were at that ordination. 4 of us were ordained as priests on that Saturday morning. And the very next day, the 17th of December 2006, 9 o'clock, there was a combined mass here. And then I was privileged to do my very first mass right on that altar with Father Robert as the preacher for that mass. So that was a beautiful memory. So I personally come here to celebrate your 50th anniversary because I am part of that story, and I'm so pleased to be able to do that. And how many more memories have you who are long-standing parishioners? You must have wonderful memories. Baptisms, first communions, confessions, anointings, people getting married, confirmations. It all adds to the special memories. So each one of you come here, and you've got your own memories of the parish, own memories of the church. And for myself as well, I remember when some of my family came from overseas for the ordination, and they all sat here in the front benches here. It made me realize how important people think the priesthood is, that they were willing to travel from overseas just to be here because there was the priest being ordained. So it is important, and that was a blessing. All three of your parishes, St. Owen, St. Elizabeth and St. Anthony, was here for that combined Mass that morning. So celebrating 50 years, I was here when you celebrated 35 years, 15 years ago, and now you're at 50. There's still 75, 100. I'm now the parish priest at Malmesbury, and last year we celebrated 160 years. So the church, so it is a long way still to go. 50 is quite young, really, in some respects, but we're 160 years in Malmesbury. So there's still a long way to go. The future, the opportunities that are there for us all are still great. During this time, of course, of COVID, it's been very difficult. Instead of the usual activities, the music, the singing, and the wonderful activities, we've had to have like a damper. But still, when I think back to a year ago, we are making progress. And hopefully by next year, once everybody's been vaccinated, we'll be able to be fully up and running. I would like to encourage all of you to think of your memories of your time here in the parish. I'm sure that you can think of wonderful times, sad times as well. Many people have been buried from this church, but also wonderful, incredible memories that are part of the story of St. Anthony's of Padua. And everything has been done under his name. Patron of the poor, but also patron of this church and patron of this parish. My congratulations to you all, to Father Francesco as the parish priest, and to the PPC and the PFC and all the different organizations here. It's been a difficult time to celebrate an anniversary, but it's good to see that you are all here this evening and ready to celebrate this wonderful occasion on Sunday. God bless.
Is what the Lord has done.
I came to the parish in 1995. And at that time it was Father Ferreira. That was the parish priest, because it was a few months after Father O'Neill was brutally murdered. I met the late Ken Killian. I was privileged to have a few months, years to work with him. I never had the chance to meet the late Deacon Joshua, but I heard tremendously good stories about him. As one of it was that made me think, maybe all of us have a bit of St. Anthony's of Padua inside of us, our patron saint. The late Deacon Joshua took people from the street, or not from the street, they gave him a roof over his head to stay with him, non-Catholics. And he loved his faith so that people became Catholics. And I can go on and tell about what Deacon Joshua has done in this parish. But as I say, I didn't know him. I just heard very tremendous good stories of him. Mr. Killian was a very humble and gentle soul. You know, in the 70s, that's all I also heard, he told me actually, it was the riots, and then there was fire along the road. And he drove through that fire to take food to the people in Scottsdene. And when he get home, his family asked him, how could he do that? It was dangerous. He said, you know what? The angels was with me. Mr. Killian's late wife, Marion, was the one that looked after us in taking us to various courses like the Caring Network. I was actually one of them. I think the spirit start being a carer to somebody else. And for that, I have to say, although it's very late, thank you to Mrs. Killian to introduce me to that and also to the Alpha. And then I will go on with a few people, but I actually don't want to name it. I'm just going to name one person that died recently, that all of us know, wow, what she meant for us in this community of Kraaifotein. And this is Matilda Kane. Matilda Kane, who with great humility and generosity gave a lot of her time and effort to assist the less fortunate. And there were many others who I remember fondly. After Father Ferreira left, Father Clohesi came. Actually, my most favorite priest. Sorry, fathers. Father Clohesi and myself, we have a very strong bond, you know. Father Clohesi said to me, Jenny, you must go get me children out of Wallisdean and take them to Constantia for a Christmas party. He arranged a bus and everything, and I, with some help of some ladies, we took them to Constantia, a day outing. And you know, the children enjoyed them so much that they actually asked the ladies that were serving them, can we come again tomorrow? But that was Father Clohesi in his silent ways of doing things for the poor. And then after Father Klesi, Father Nkululeko, for his enthusiasm and generous spirit that he has, and also help me to serve the poor in the community. Then Father Audacious came, the most humble priest that I ever met, with a very good spirit. And Father JP for his leadership. And then we get our Italian stallion. Father, you actually come in a very good time in this parish. You come because, you know, when you came, it was 2019, 2020 came, and it was COVID. Everybody, me myself, was scared of COVID. We took take precautions in place, and then you came and you served the community through this COVID epidemic time. That the people that's hungry come knock on your door. And I look up to you for that. And one day Ursula came to me, and Ursula asked me, but before I came there, I had run a soup kitchen from my home, where Father JP and Father Audacious come and bless it every year before I start. I did that for 6 years because, you know, I had to quit my job to look after my husband. And I was praying and asking for intercessions that I want to do something, but what can I do? And one day I was driving through Kraaifotein streets in the morning, and I saw every second church have a soup kitchen in the mornings. But that didn't open my eyes yet. And luckily for me, my house is situated next to Wallisdene. And I saw that afternoon, I saw the children passing, and I say for myself, that is what you're going to do. You're going to cook soup or give food for the children. Even if they broke my doors, like Delphine and Amber knows, to get soup from me in the afternoon, that was enough for them. Yes, and then Father Francisco and Father Rui. Father Rui made me think of the late Ken Killian. That humbleness. I met Father Rui as the deacon of the parish, and Father Rui, the way you help to serve the poor, your patience, everything, it spoke to me, Father. God had blessed me tremendously. I want to share a few things with you guys. Sorry, with you brothers and sisters. I was thinking, I feel so honored to be the coordinator of the poor tonight. Because it made me think, what is poor? We are poor. Some of us are poor. We're poor in love. We poor, sometimes we're so poor that we forget about the others that's poor. We get people, the aged people, sitting at home. Nobody's caring, not even the children is caring. All the children moved away. And we all forget about them. Recently, or last year, we lost Uncle Eddie. So many times I think, Auntie Susan, it's being alone. I found this from time to time. And it comes to my mind do we, I know some of us, do phone on Susan, do we do what we have to do? Because we look at the Saint Anthony's, we look at the life that St. Anthony's was doing. And we are so blessed that he became the patron saint of our church. Or that we want to shout it. This is our patron saint. One of the greatest saints is our patron saint. But do we really do what we learn from what St. Anthony has done? Yes, it's right. Some of us are in various ministries, but that is all. We just come to church and then we're out again. Numerous calls came from the pulpit. Father needs sacristans, Father needs cleaners. There's a lack there, there's a lack that. What are we doing? We're walking out. We don't live our life according to our saint. And then I came to the mentally and physical disabilities. You know, it's hard for parents to raise children that mentally or physically be disabled. Do we ever offer them a one night off? Do we ever take 1 hour to fit Cecilia Kaji for a drive or just an outing? She asked nothing. Where are we? This is our patron saint. This is the thing he has done. He looked after the poor. Spiritually as well. He gave us a great example of the works he did, how he treated those in need of love and compassion. Today I actually don't want to talk about anything as my encounter. Since I was at a meeting, I was thinking what I'm going to say. I heard a lot of testimonies goes out. Very good, touching, soul-searching. As you all know, I love the poor. I love Wallisden, my home away from home. I know in Wallisden is not only poor people. But in Wallisden, I met a boy once. I think he was 9 or 10 years old, looking for a pair of shoes. I always have like a clothing bank for the poor at my house. So I said to him, I invited him to my house to come, and there was no shoes fitting his feet. If it wasn't too small, it was too big to wear. So I said to him, he can come back in a week or 2 weeks' time, then I will see what I can do for him. Eventually I got shoes from Delft. And it was a Sunday morning. We as a family were on our way to church. And my husband said to me, Jenny, there's a boy outside waiting for you. I thought, who is here now? Oh, I don't have time because I was late. And when I got out, I saw this boy. And I couldn't, but I have the shoes. I gave him the shoes. I said to him, he can have all the shoes. But my children were looking at him. And they say, Mommy, come see this boy's face. It looks like you gave him 100 pairs of new shoes. How we fit each shoe, some of them too big, some of them fitting me. For this boy, it was like the first time that he ever had a pair of shoes. Then I was at SOS Children Village, where Anna's late sister also worked. We were colleagues. There was a boy, Simon van der Merwe, who it wasn't even his real name. He was picked up at the farm. And the ants ate his whole mouth. He couldn't barely speak. But everybody was warning you that you must be careful of Simon, because Simon steals. And I look at Simon and I start talking. He couldn't talk back, but he could listen and understand. And I speak to Simon, and I realize that Simon needs love. Simon never stole a thing from me, because the only thing Simon needed or was lacking of us was love. The same thing, it's a 70, not the same but similar, 76-year-old man. I struggle to get him an ID document. And I said to him, Opa George, what can I do? I can't help you anymore. You must be honest to me. I invite him various times to my house. Come sit in my house. And then one day, he was driving with me. Even if I have to open the windows, you can think for yourself. It was cold and I had to open the windows. And then Opa George told me, I'm 76, but I was dumped on the trash by my mother. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I come from. I don't know who my parents is. You're the first person that I'm telling this to. I look at him and I ask, Opa, but just tell me who. By who do you grow up? He said, I stayed my whole life in a children's home. I said, give me the name of the children's home. And he said, St. Francis. And from there, things fall in place. 76, he just get old age pay for 7 months before he passed on. Then, as lots of you know, Oma. I met Oma in a big store. I took Father Francesco there as well, and a few of my very close friends. Oma was never been registered as a child. Oma can't find the ID. And I hesitate with God. I prayed and I asked God, what am I going to do? I cared for Oma for 2 years, going every day into Wallerstein. Even go to court for her, as she was assaulted by people staying on the premises where she stayed. Oma couldn't speak for herself. She couldn't defend herself. And as COVID came, I had to speak to my husband, because I know I can't go into Wallerstein now because it's COVID. I have to think about my husband. As most of you know, that my husband is not a healthy person. And I asked him, Johan, can I take Oma in? He said, yes, you can take her in, but you must first see that she's safe, take her to the doctor, get a test and all that. And I did all of that. Oma wasn't 2 weeks by us. Then Johan asked me, will you have the heart to send this woman back to where she came from? So I can go on and on. Father knows of the blind lady. Everything I do, I run through my priest of this parish. Oma Katrina, her children died before her, 76 years old. A Catholic staying in Wallerstein. Since 2002, she became blind. She never received Holy Communion, never anything, and I spoke to Father, and Father Ruby even went to a hospital to give her the anointing of the sick. And Oma Katrina is such a loving, caring person, but she can't see, and she's getting robbed every month from her old age pay, until God put her on my path. Now I'm my eyes for her. All of us sitting here tonight, when it's Christmas time, we have nice lunches. But not all of us is so privileged to share it with anybody else or somebody else. 2 days before Christmas, 10 of Wallerstein's shacks burned down. The people lost everything. But God, or St. Anthony, was spoken through me. That I don't know why I prepared a feast, but I could take meals to them. And also, every Christmas, that was the beginning of 10 years ago. I started 10 years ago. I left an open space at my table. The first Christmas that we have to sit and eat, there was a knock on my door. A young lady of Zimbabwe looking for a job. I invited her in. I gave her the place that I reserved for God. As I say, or as I will say, who is we? What do we really do to help the poor? The poor is not because they need to be fed with soup. I can tell you many numerous stories of how we feed the poor, how we have fun with them. I can say thank you to all of you for what you're doing for us to operate so successfully. But remember, people that coming from far. Next time, when you see a boy begging on the street, don't give him money. Speak to him. Ask him. You know, sometimes you will hear stories that you can't believe exist. I can stand here whole night telling you what I do with my life, for my community, not only for Wallerstein. I can't count actually Bloekombosch in because I don't work a lot in Bloekombosch, but in Scottsdene as well. Yesterday, the ladies that's working for me had a birthday. I didn't know it was a birthday, so I prepared a quick breakfast for her. And I invite some of my friends, because Evelyn is from Uganda. That breakfast, that eggs, tomatoes, sausage, few pastries I went to buy, meant so much for Evelyn. This morning she sent me a beautiful message. And I can just say thank you to the Lord. Because I have people that went before me, that set the example for me. And I have a saint, you know, I never read so much about St. Anthony's of Padua as in this few weeks. So, my brothers and sisters, tonight, I just want to ask you that we must reflect on our lives. And I want to thank all of you who supported the soup kitchens. And with that, I want to add something as well, you know. At St. Owen's, we're so blessed. Yeah, well, there was really not a lot of help at St. Owen's in the beginning of the year. And I said to our group, I'm not going to ask anymore. I'm going to put my trust in God. And we get blessed tremendously to feed the poor of this community. So I want to say to you, if you ever think of the poor, look at your neighbor, maybe your friend. We heard about suicides lately. It's just popping up everywhere. How lonely that person must have been. And think about the poor at heart. Thank you.
Good evening, Father. Good evening, parishioners. For those who don't know me, I am Mr. Paulse, or Richard Paulse if you want to call me. I'm representing the Kolping Society. Kolping was started up in Germany by Adolf Kolping. And from there it spread right through the world. Kolping here in Cape Town started in 1999 with the first family at St. Anthony's. There were 6 members. It was started here at St. Anthony's by Mrs. Ellie Wright and 5 other members. The baby Kolping was Kleinvlei. The reason why they were the baby company, because only a couple of months later, the Kolping started canvassing for families. Okay, Kolping's motto is, instead of giving people handouts, you teach them jobs and you teach them to feed themselves. In other words, instead of handing out food parcels and food, you give him a fishing rod and you teach him to catch his own fish, that he can feed himself and others. Kolping here at St. Anthony's increased at one stage to 68 members. We were the most members in the whole of Cape Town. Okay. Kolping also does plenty other things. They give students work opportunity programs. They give them lessons like skills development. So the young Kolping members can join and then they can go and study further. Take up frail care. The women can take up frail care, men can do welding, any other engineering work. And they also started their first workshops in Düsseldorf. Here in Cape Town, only after a while, other members joined at different parishes. But St. Anthony's still stayed the biggest. For a good couple of years, they were the biggest. Kolping also saw the need of the soup kitchen, which was run by individuals here at St. Anthony's and at St. Owen's. They saw the need because of all the young children, grown-ups, that was going looking for food. We, or of the members that were before me, asked the Praising to send Germany a letter and asked them to help us with our soup kitchen. The soup kitchen, after a couple of years, I think 3-4 years, Germany donated us some money to establish our soup kitchen at St. Owen's. The whole kitchen was established there, and we here at St. Anthony's established the garden, which was also donated by Germany. We had a whole vegetable garden here, and Father Robert used to attend the garden. He was our gardener. All the proceeds from the garden was given to the soup kitchen to make use of. The youth programs, I'm not going to elaborate on the youth programs because someone else will be doing that. The youth programs also, it grew. People started taking interest in what the Kolping was doing. We had a lot of members which came, they joined, they got educations, got educated, learned their skills, and they just disappear. So now I am going to give over to Leroy, which will tell you about the youth programs. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, fellow. I'm gonna talk on behalf of Oslo Coping Youth. I've joined the Coping organization in 2006 as a coping member for the Coping Kraaifotein family. But it all started back when I was at school, when I matriculated in 2005. When I finished matriculated, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was a bit lost. And then I got information from somebody who guided me to come and join the organization. So I came and joined in 2006 as a member, which in that same year, they sent me to a work opportunity program, which train you, give you life skills for 10 days, how to search and look into yourself, which came into really a good time because I was a bit lost. And that way I could have also find myself. And from the life skills program, they put me to a hard skills program, which contains of going to a college where you, or institution, which they paid for fully. I didn't even give a cent, so they paid fully for the whole training. And from there, they also supported me when I finished with the education. And I'm so grateful for that because I'm also a boy from Wallasdean. I still stay there. One of the family members, we are home. We were 8 people in one home. Like, it's my mother, single parent with 8 children. Not 8, literally 8 children, but it was me and my cousins and my nieces. We are a lot in one home. So financially, she couldn't afford to support me, to put me to education, but to the Coping organization, it really gives me that ability not to achieve my dream, but to put something against my name, to say, Leroy, you have achieved something also, but it's not big, a degree or something, but at least you have achieved something. So from there, I also got an opportunity to play my role, and I want to give back to the community, where I also recruited members from Wallasdean and in Bloekombosch area that I also saw the need to have that support. And I must say one thing that I'm grateful also for is that the support that they gave, they didn't say no, we won't go into Wallasdean, no, we won't support you when you have events there, but they literally gave me the support, the resources. I can speak about Mr. Bradley also. There was I think the CEO at the head office. He was also one of the major role players in that event. Mr. Anmoren Brands is not here this evening, but she also played a major role. Also all the members of the Coping organization. Also Mr. Richard, it was at one stage, laat ek sê, ek moet nie lang praat, jammer. But I want to stress this because I really want to just to say thank you in a good manner. They know when I come here, I'm a family member. I'm not a stranger. I'm not somebody who's going to feel shy. But when I'm amongst them, I feel like one of their children. Mr. Richard, when he worked, he used to take us every Saturday or one Saturday in a month to go and work with him. And therefore, we could have get something also to put on the table to give back to our mothers. So when I see, oh, this is working, I went back to my community and I recruited some of the members, which we recruited. I recruited 17 members for the organization. From that 17, 7 of the members also went on the work opportunity program. And they also went through the same process, going through, because they also were lost. When they went and came back, finished their hard skills training, I can vouch to say that some of them are teachers today, some of them are engineers, some of them are assistant teachers. I'm not lying, people who are using drugs, who were devastated, there were no hope for them. But through this organization, it really shown what they can do for the community. And also Auntie Jenny, I also heard a lot about Auntie Jenny, but I never saw Auntie Jenny. But then when I saw Auntie Jenny, I saw, no, this must be soap auntie. They used to call her the soap auntie in the community, because we know usually when we go to Scottsdene via Somerville, that you need to pass by there by the soap auntie. And you know, winter time, they need to go and fetch the shop in the morning or the afternoons. But her door was always open for the children of the community. And I also had an opportunity to host the Germans every year, because my mother had an education center. She still has an education center. So every year in September, when they have the exchange students from Germany in South Africa, we had the privilege to host them at the center, which they also established a garden, a food garden, also have different activities at our center. You will see when you get there, there's literally printing of Germany and South Africa. I have pictures against the wall, just to showcase that. Some of the people always ask, Leroy, why do you get those people every year, but those people don't contribute money? I said, no, value of money ain't nothing. But hosting those people is just giving us hope to say that definitely there is something good happening in the communities. And here also the Kraaifotein family, I was part of the food garden that we had at the back with Father Roland. Yeah, we had a food garden. We had a recycle project that we started at St. Owens. I know there was bins, literally steel bins that they had, that we had to fill with bottles, where the community in Scottsdene also brought the bottles, and we expanded to Wallisdean, where we had our own recycle project. We had soup kitchens, where we also helped at St. Owens, also at St. Anthony's, or the exchange program, and also went on various outing and trips with the Coping family. Workshops and training that we also had, and I also had the privilege to host one of our students was residing in Worcester. He didn't have a place to stay. So I opened the door. We were already a lot in the house. So I said, okay, no, it's fine. My mom was very upset with me, but okay. But I said, no, I opened my door and I took him in because I see he had to finish his studies here in, at Northland College. So I opened my door for him so he can spend the 3 to 6 months there. When he finished his 3 to 6 months, he went home. But now we still have that connection of being, he's a family member. When he comes here to Cape Town, my door is open. I always make the example of saying, when he came here the first day, he was shy. So I said to him, luister, so I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not gonna do anything for you. I show him where the bread bin is, where is the bread, where you can get the bread, the kettle, the tea, the whatever, where's the toilet. So I said, now you are a family member. You are not an unknown person anymore, so you must help yourself. When I'm not here, Muni say, I'm going to wait for Leroy. Leroy is not going to be here 24/7. But till today, we have that bond of being like brothers. When I go to Worcester, the same thing happens there. I can go there anytime And that is the bond which I've created through this organization. To share my success story, from 2006 until now, I've done a lot of things. I got to know it's gonna be long. Otherwise, some people is gonna be quiet for me. But today, I'm an assistant lecturer at Goodwood College, Northland Goodwood College, which I'm blessed for, because if it wasn't for this small door that opened for me, I knew for sure nothing would have happened. But through this door of the co-oping organization and the support, also the parishes, because you also played a part in contributing in whatever you've done. I want to say thank you. And I hope one day we can re-establish co-oping organization and do it as it was. Thank you.
Good morning, welcome. My name is Butler. I am a previous student of Butler School and the Kraaifotein course. I did the walk course in 2009, 2010. Studied through Kraaifotein at Butler. We did a 10-month shipping course. After that, I worked at the Kraaifotein House in Melbourne for 3 years, something different. I worked with German shift, learned a lot of things doing, working, and it was a good experience. Later, after that, I moved to a winery. Where I worked there for 3 years, started out as a dishwasher. 6-8 months went by, I got promoted from dishwasher to commissioner, and then a year after that, I got promoted to commissioner. I worked there for about 3 years. From there, I moved to a beer establishment in Kraaifotein for 15 orange. It was something different, something big, something I wasn't used to. Tried that after a year and a half. After that, I wanted something different again, different experiences. I moved to Kraaifotein, boutique hotel, where that was more small, more elegant, more dainty, I would say, because we were doing like home style cooking, things like that. From that, I went back to the job, worked
Good evening, Father, brothers and sisters. I'm Ursula, for those who don't know me. I'm going to talk about my journey as a Catholic Welfare and Development lay councillor in the parish, which I had the privilege to do for over 10 years. My journey started as a catechist. I noticed some behavioral problems in some of the children, and I discussed it with Father Robert, who saw the need for an intervention program in the community. At that time, the Catholic Welfare and Development in town ran a program called Catholic Counseling Network, CCN. After several interviews with Father Robert and Catholic Welfare and Development Management, I was selected to do the program. Now, just going back 2 years before that, my sister was terminally ill. And I bargained with God and said, if you heal my sister, I will work for you. And he healed my sister. So then, the blessed opportunity presented itself to help the community, and I knew now it's payback time. I had to attend evening classes once a week for a year at Lifeline Childline in town. It was a challenging time, as the sessions took place in the afternoon after work, and as you know, I'm working in Milnerton, and I had to travel to town, and I wasn't driving at the time, so I make use of public transport. And my dad or my son will have to pick me up in the evenings, late evenings. I remember one night, I didn't have a lift home, but I refused to miss a class. And I ended up booking myself into the nearest hotel in town just to attend that evening class. After successfully completing the program in 2007, I was introduced into the church by Father Robert and the Catholic Welfare Development Manager, Mary. We opened counseling rooms in St. Owens and here at St. Anthony's. And the service was offered for free to the community at large. And boy, did Father Robert make sure the community at large knew about this program. He talked to the other church denominations about the so beautiful service that we have at the Catholic Church. He even made an appointment for me to see the principal at Scottsdene High School to see whether they will need my service. After a year in the CCN program, we extended the service to St. Kevin's in North Pine and All Saints in Brackenfell. The priest in Coles River also referred clients to me. It became very busy. I counseled 3 times a week, and it will be 2 during the week nights after work, with 2 sessions or 3 sessions, and then Saturday mornings it will be for the children. When Father JP the other evening, Tuesday evening, spoke about getting close to tears at a funeral, I could relate, you know. Sitting opposite somebody telling you their story about abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse, hurt, addiction, relationship problems, and more. It's hard not to be affected. So many times I will sit in silent prayer saying, God, you now have to lay the words into my mouth. Sometimes people will come to 1 session. Sometimes it will go on for months. As you know, that counseling is confidential. I can't really talk about it. But I can talk about briefly, really briefly, about 2 cases where I got permission to talk about. It was a woman walked into the counseling room. A friend brought her with her 2 children. The boy was about 17 and the daughter about 10. Her first husband passed away, and she met this wonderful man and got married. Not even a year into that marriage, this man wasn't so wonderful anymore. He started to abuse her and her children. That night, that woman was so ashamed. She and her children were crying in that counseling room. And she was so ashamed of talking about the intents of that abuse that she had to write me a letter to explain everything. Needless to say, this friend brought her every week to counseling, and she came for, I think, about a year. But the amazing thing is how you could see how this woman healed. Now I'm still friends with her. She got her education, she went back to school, and she had a driver's license. Another case was of a teenage boy accidentally caused the death of his friend, a very close friend that had sleepovers in his house. I had to counsel that boy, but also the friend that passed away's sister of 10 years old. There you could see really the forgiveness of the parents of the boy that passed away, because they will bring this boy with their daughter for counseling. Father Robert and Mary also help in keeping this boy out of jail. We wrote letters, we wrote affidavits, and just do everything to just keep this boy out of prison. Part of helping people who came to us was referring them for more professional help to other organizations, like the Department of Social Services. The service we were offering in the community was a such benefit that the Department of Social Services at one stage asked me to assist them in counseling. As counselors, we went for several training paid by Catholic Welfare and Development. FAMSA training, the Cape Town Drug Center, also for personality type training, also to read what the person are not saying, you know. So sometimes a couple will come to you, and you will see one of the other one is afraid of the other one, you know, and you must be able to read what the person is not saying. So that was also of the programs that we attend. Counseling is a very lonely but very rewarding work or job or work journey. Especially the reward comes in, especially when you see how stronger a person become, you know, through the sessions. Also, as counselors, we were 17 counselors in the Western Cape, and we met once a month. And I think that was the thing that we look forward to, because I can't talk to my mother, I can't talk to my son, I can't talk to my friends about counseling, you know. There was times where you come out of a session drained, and I have to go into a room at home, not talking to my family, and call Bernard, who was my psychologist, or Mary, the manager. So it was a very lonely journey. So we as counselors look forward to that meeting that we have once a month to talk. But also, even there, you couldn't name who the people that you're seeing. You give a case number. also to pray together, encourage each other on this journey, and also then to hand in stats of what you have done for the month. I must say, apart from all the priests, Father Robert, Father Nkululeko, Father Audacious, Father JP, and then in Brackenfeld and North Pine, Father Roger, very loving, always had a breakfast when we go for reviews to him. Father Landela, Father Mostert, who gave me all their support. I must say, I had two amazing people behind me every step of the way. And that is my psychologist and where I went for supervision, that is Bernard Kraus, and Mary, the counseling network manager. Sadly, CCN had to close down. As you all know, CWD scaled down, and that is one of the programs that had to close down. But we as counselors are still in contact. We still have our WhatsApp group. We can't get away from that. You know, we so, like now, when I heard that I have to come and talk, the first thing I was on the group, please pray for me, I'm so afraid to do this, you know. And Mary went back to Ireland, she's from Ireland, but I found her as well, you know, so that connection never was gone. Also Bernard is not a Catholic, but he was in the program, a great man of God. He was a friend, you know. I didn't talk to him only about counseling my cases, but I could talk about my journey as well, and I could see the growth, and he could see the growth in me, you know. So counseling was not only for healing for the people I saw, but also for the healing of myself. In closing, I just want to say it was an honor. The scripture that was my strength, has been Galatians 6, verse 2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mavis. I'm here at St. Anthony. We are with the soup kitchen. During the pandemic or the lockdown in 2020, a great need came about, and the community had a drastic need to be helped. For our parish priest at the time, Father Francesco and Father Telford, came about the idea of reinstating the soup kitchen that was here. A call for help was sent out for any kind of donation for the soup kitchen, any dry ingredients, bread, whatever people can give. We were indeed blessed as many of our parishioners responded by making either a pot of soup, donating bread, sandwiches, dry ingredients, fresh produce, etc. At the same time, at some point, the newly appointed, newly confirmed candidates was asked to help, and there were some of them that came out and assisted. And on Fridays especially, the youth were responsible in helping in distributing with the soup. We not only give soup, but once a month, when we had ingredients, we also managed to at least make a decent plate of food. We had spaghetti, we had fish heads that late Auntie Tala made, and the people really enjoyed. They were so appreciative of what they could give. When we closed off in December with the food kitchen, the soup kitchen, we had food and they received knitted items that was donated by a friend of one of our parishioners. St. Anthony and St. Owen has a great understanding as to whatever is left from St. Anthony will always give to St. Owen. St. Owen will give to St. Anthony. And recently, as St. Elizabeth is also having a soup kitchen, that is also happened now. They're also in the process and by helping us with about 20 liters of soup that we had like 2 weeks ago. So in essence, I want to thank everyone that made a kind of a donation in whichever form. May it be bread, dry ingredients, money towards buying stuff, the food produce, we really do appreciate. And in closing, let me just quote St. Anthony. Charity is the soul of faith. Without love, faith dies. So let us please continue with the love and continue with the good work that we are doing, and let us never tire. Thank you.
Good evening, fathers. Good evening, brothers and sisters in Christ. I haven't got a lot to say. I'm one of the ladies that assist in providing a pot of soup. We moved to North Pine in 1987, and because we were staying on the border of Scottsdene and North Pine, I've always had children coming and knocking at the door, and my husband and I decided that we would just, make a pot of soup and provide for them. We attended the parish, but at that stage, Brackenfell and North Pine was part of the St. Anthony's parish. So we were in Brackenfell most of the time. And for some or other reason, in 2012, just before Father Noel left, or Bishop Noel left, we went to Scottsdene one morning, and we never went back to North Pine. So from there, my husband had joined one of the social groups in the church, and of course he stole the hearts of the ladies at St. Owen's. And he had promised that on his off days, because he was an ambulanceman, he would come and assist them at the soup kitchen, and he would provide a pot of soup. Sadly, that never materialized because he passed on. But we just thought that, that was a legacy that he was going to start. And I went and I approached Auntie Linda, and I said, look, this is what he promised you, and this is what we would do. So once a week, I would cook a pot of soup and provide for the ladies. And then when COVID happened, Jenny, them started up again at St. Owen's at a stage, and I said, look, we'll come and assist there. And not long after that, I felt that one pot of soup wasn't enough. We still continued. In fact, whoever comes to my door, there is always soup available. So I still have children coming around there. So that would be my pot. But I only had one big pot of soup, so I make one big pot and one smaller pot for those who come to my door. And then one day I was telling my friend, she's from the Anglican church, and I said to her, something, I don't have another big pot. I'd like to provide another pot of soup. So she says, no, man, don't worry. You make the one and I'll make the other. So on a Wednesday, Jenny comes and collects from me, and she collects from my friend in Somerville. So just to end off a blessing that I had in 2019, I think it was the last karaoke that was here at the church. And I was sitting at the table, and next thing this young man came and he knelt in front of me and he kept bowing and bowing, and I couldn't understand. I felt so embarrassed because what is this guy? And he said to me, Auntie, ek wil net vir Auntie sê, Auntie het altyd vir my sop gegee. As ek na Auntie se huis toe kom, en ek wil net vir Auntie sê, kyk hoe lyk ek nou. You know, and that was such a blessing. It made me feel so good. Thank you.
Good evening, all. I'm nervous. I'm here to talk about the soup kitchen in Wallisden. The soup kitchen start originally from Kiro. So I'm not here to speak about Kiro, but I think I must just tell a small story where it starts, where it originally starts. I didn't plan a soup kitchen in Wallisden. That wasn't on my agenda. When we start Kiro 2019, I remember me and Antoinette, Ursula, Warren, and I hope Natasha is here. We were practicing with the dancers for Mother's Day, and we were dreaming of how we will make up the church with flowers. We make paper flowers, and we will decorate Our Lady, and we want the girls to dance perfect, and we practice for, I think, 4 hours. And the girls decided they want a water break. And while they take their water break, we were dreaming about our childhood days, how we were playing and how we were camping and how happy we were to be in the church. And as Ursula walked in, you know how dry Ursula can be, and she said, you know, all the children is clinging to the gate. They want to dance. They want to be part of us. And then we said, listen, maybe we must start something across the border where we can invite a community, irrespective of what faith they belong to, and maybe make a difference. Maybe we can make a difference in somebody else's life. And there, Kira was born in front of Our Lady the day before Mother's Day, and off we go. After 6 months, me and Warren volunteered to go to Wallisden. And yes, we asked Father Francisco. We said, yes, Kiro, anytime you can start. And off we go. And one Saturday morning, I said, Warren, before we start, we have to walk and see what is the need in Wallisden. You know, I have learned you cannot teach somebody that is hungry. And then we make a decision, we will start and see how it goes. We will first take the Catholic children and provide some sandwiches and cool drink, and it went well for a few weeks. But after a few weeks, the bread wasn't enough. And I start phoning my friends, and everybody walk into the workshop. I will share my experience. Said, listen, I need bread. We had all the children, and the children are hungry, and we try to do something in Wallisden, and everybody will phone and say, Teresa, we've got bread, we've got this. And so we have not enough bread, because every Sunday somebody will we will turn some children back because there wasn't enough bread. And you know, me and Warren always discussing a Sunday and what went wrong, where can we improve, what can we do better, and always working on our next program for next Sunday on a Thursday evening. And I said one night, I said, Warren, can we stop Kiro? And he said, no, why? I said, no, the children are hungry. We cannot have Kiro if children are hungry. Because if children look at you and you speak about Moses and Daniel and all the people in the Bible and try to explain to them who's Mary, and they look at you and they cannot even think, then you must know there's a problem. So we stopped Kiro for a few Sundays. And I remember I said to him, soup kitchen, and he said, no. I said, soup kitchen, and he said, no, because you know what? I'm a family man, and I'm busy, and I must still look after my family. Who's going to cook the soup? And what, all the things going with the soup, in the pot of soup, and who's going to do night? And again, I said, social media is very powerful. Let us ask our friends for donations. So we start our first pot of soup, discuss it with Kosi. I said, listen, we want to start a soup kitchen. And she said, yes, we can start. So we start our first soup kitchen. I remember one Wednesday morning, I was so excited about the soup kitchen, and we've got a shortage of soup. We don't care as long as we start the soup kitchen and we feed some children. So we were all excited, and we were just excited. And every time we will discuss the soup kitchen, and Kiro is on the sidewalk, and it's only soup kitchen, because the children are hungry. I remember one Wednesday morning, I mentioned something to Father Francesco when he was so cross. He said, Teresa, I want the catechist. And I know catechist is important, and while we're busy with the soup kitchen, we're recruiting for Kiro and catechist. But that Wednesday morning, I was so disturbed. I went home and I sent him a message. I said, you know what? I really apologize if I do something out of your absence. But I know that you cannot teach a hungry child. And I remember before we start the soup kitchen, I will watch the movie of Mother Teresa, and I think maybe I do something wrong. He is right. We must have the catechists, and we must start recruiting catechists, because what is the church without catechists? Nothing. And I remember in our third soup kitchen, there was no bread. And the children will sit, and there was no bread. And Warren will get in his car and said, okay, fine, I will get some bread. And they will tell Kosi until we wait for the bread. And I remember it was almost an hour, and they still wait an hour for that bread. And I said, Warren, we need more soup. So, as I said, social media, very powerful. Somehow, some way, we get connected to a lady who can provide us 100 liters of soup, and I think in the World Cup, Warren. We went and see the lady, me and Warren, and the lady said, okay, Teresa, we can provide you with 100 liters of soup every week. And what breaks my heart in a million pieces is when we donate that soup, and then you realize that's the only meal that children have in 2 or 3 days. Or when Warren pull up 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and the children are sitting waiting for the white car to bring the soup. Or Kosi come up to church and they shout, Auntie, is the soup ready? Is the soup there? And that is something that nothing can replace. You know what? No amount of makeup, or no amount of bags, or no amount of money, or no amount of traveling can make up for the feeling you feel when you serve other people. So the kitchen wasn't clear. It wasn't my goal. My goal was to go here. My goal was to get children together, make them happy, learn them how to play, learn them how to laugh, nurture. That was my goal in my institution. And 25 people do all the fighting for the institution. It's up and running, hopefully the catechists will follow.
Teresa, ons ek en Ursula staan met die Kiro in die gang op by zijn ouwens. By entering through faith into what God has always wanted to do. Sorry, evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon. what always God wanted to do for us, set us right for Him. This is from Romans 5, verse 1 to 2. Make us fit for Him. We have it all together with God because of our Master Jesus. And that's not all. We throw open our doors for God and discover at the same moment that He has already thrown open His doors for us. We found ourselves standing where we always hoped we might stand, out in the wide open spaces of God's grace and glory, standing tall and shouting our praise. Kira opened the doors to all denominations in our community. We want to teach children around the church or who want to come to Kiro some norms and values in a playful and relaxing surrounding. Lots of children are lonely and find it difficult to make friends and reach out to each other. We want to encourage some of them to join us because we want children to find themselves in a playful manner and build friendly relationships with their peers, to dream big. And if one day, maybe, we will take them places. Sorry. Pardon. Only a few of them attend Sunday school, and some of the parents find it difficult to walk all the way down to St. Anthony's to attend catechism. We want to keep them out of trouble, learn to appreciate small things in life, be a child, and just to be themselves. We come across children who need lots more than others in their daily lives, and we want to reach out to them, especially in their journey with us. It is our dream to let them come back one day and make a difference in their community. Saturday mornings when me and Ursula are going to St. Owen's, they are waiting on the doorsteps, thinking, when are these people coming? And when they see us, they come running. Ooh, ek het gedink, juffrou, hulle gaan nie meer kom nie. Ooh, nou sien ek, juffrou, is die sleutel genaal. En dan babbel hulle aan mekaar en wag dat ons moet begin. They are starting to trust us now, getting used to us being around and getting used to their peers. They're looking out for each other and always look around who's not there today. Then we do some activities with them. We read the Bible, Bible stories. We do creative activities, tell them stories, sing songs, Bible songs, play games, and lots more. We teach them the Hail Mary. That is from my trip to Ngome. And the glory be to the Father. And then we ask them also for personal praise. Then we take them on hikes. We went to the park in 4th Avenue and showing them off. And they were showing off to their friends. No, you can't come with. It's only for the Kiro children. And then the parents, some parents brought the children along. And then our food, we had to pray that the food could be enough for all of them. And we told them also, no, you can't stop there. If they want to come, they can come. And Teresa talked about the Kiro at St. Elizabeth. I just want to end off when relief is just off sight. Jesus intercedes for us and encourages us, just go full steam ahead. He is always there for us, and He takes care of us. Never mind which way you go. Thank you very much.
I haven't stood here in a while. So, good evening, priest. Good evening, brothers and sisters. I think it's safe to say that somewhere in each one of our memories, we have been a witness to a form of parcel giving. It perhaps started out as a cup of sugar from a neighbor, but would eventually grow to a few potatoes, a canned item, and before you knew it, you had a parcel. Perhaps some of you would attest to this too, that you would see this little parcel disappear before your eyes heading out the front door, thinking to yourself, oh, there goes the peanut butter. And all that was said was someone else needed it more. And that's just how it was, how it always will be. And so these traditions were and are passed on from generation to generation. And so the practice of parcel giving was already well in place when the church was completed in 1971, with it having originated in the family home. Our late deacons Joshua and Killian, along with a few parishioners, had already started handing out these little parcels, majority of the time out of their own cupboards. But the act of giving was a firm must. A branch of the St. Vincent de Paul Society was established in the parish in the early 70s by the late Mr. Morrison and his father-in-law, Mr. Charles Butler. Back then, we were also fortunate to receive a fresh produce donation from Woolworths via a parishioner. And so more and more families joined in this initiative, what has now become known as the church food parcel. This parcel would feed a homeless woman for 38 years. This parcel would enter a home where the mother had just been on her knees praying because she didn't know where her family's next meal would be coming from. In tears, she just had to let me know how great God was and that He had heard her prayers. And so each parcel came with its own little story to tell. No matter where you went to deliver it, it was always received with a joyous and grateful heart. St. Anthony of Padua loved the poor. He chose to live a life beside the poor. He said that charity, love, is the soul of faith. It gives it life. Without love, faith dies. Pope Francis called the poor the treasures of the church, and that a life lived alongside the poor transforms and converts us. There is no church without charity. And so even to this day, the love continues. It has continued throughout the years with every priest that has served this community. Their compassion to always make sure that the poor and needy were taken care of, most of the time not knowing where the finance would come from. But as Father always says, the Lord will provide. And the Lord certainly provides. So thank you, good and faithful servants. Let us continue to appreciate and pray for our priests, as we are very blessed to have them. When Father Francesco approached me to assist with this program, I was already planning my new quiet lifestyle, and I still need to repay the person who suggested my name. She knows who she is. But Father, I was already prepared for this call and had been already molded for this journey in my life. At the age of 18, I was already doing my community work. You wouldn't say, as I'm standing here today, that perhaps for about 2 to 3 years, I used to sleep on the floor. Not many people know that story. But that's not the point of why I'm saying that. The point of that story is that the Lord took me out of that miry clay, and He was preparing me for this mission work that I was going to do. And today, I had to be prepared to sleep on a floor, to know what it was like, to know that when I walk into any person's room or home, it didn't matter what it looked like. It didn't matter what cup they gave me. If it was a dirty cup of tea, the tea was in a dirty cup, it didn't matter. I wasn't there for that. And that mold that I had received at that time in my life, I am greatly appreciated to our God. My husband always says, I met you when you were sleeping on a floor. And I say to him, I met you when you were sleeping under a tree. So, no matter your circumstances, there are joys in poverty. And I have many joys, and I've seen many things in this life that has given me that joy. Walking beside people, restoring each other, understanding each other, has made me know that I need them as much as they need me. Charity and love has bonded us, our souls joined by a salvation cross. Today, through the grace of God, the parish delivers 70 food parcels to families in the community of Kraaifotein, Scottsdene, Wallerstein and Blukenbos. In the heart of level 5 and 4 of the COVID pandemic, this total reached to 120 families. This would not have been possible had it not been for the kind-hearted and generous organizations like the St. Vincent de Paul Society